Leslie Perdomo.
I'm Jay Perdomo.
And this is your boy.
It's my boy Jason.
And he's the youngest of three, so who else have we got?
We have a 13-year-old, soon to be 14. His name is Justin. Then we have an 11-year-old Joshua. And then Jason is 9.
When did you see his injury? At what age?
We started seeing his injury at 3 years and 4 months. He received his MMR vaccine at 3 years, 2 months. So we started seeing a difference.
Okay, so then that's late.
That's
So
very
now
late.
describe him to us, because you would have got some
Yeah.
talking, walking.
Yes.
Well,
Tell
Yes.
us about it.
He met all his milestones, walking, talking. He was learning his letters and sounds. He actually learned them faster than our soon-to-be 4-year-old, and we were wondering if he was going to have a hard time at school since he was already ahead of him. He learned Spanish quickly.
Spoke English, Spanish.
Spoke English and Spanish, new songs.
Have you
would
got video of
communicate.
this?
We have very small videos. You know, the third child doesn't get a lot.
We do have some.
Others, but we do have some. But we started noticing his regression happened slowly. We started noticing his behavior is the first thing that changed. Well, first he got sick. He got a fever. He had a rash. We gave him Tylenol like they told us to do. And then we started noticing that his behavior was changing. He started becoming extremely hyperactive, and this was the calmest child of all three. He started becoming fearful of things that he never feared. He started getting anxiety.
He would tell you, "I'm scared, Dad. I'm scared."
He would, at this point,
He'd point to
tell
something I'm
us
scared about.
that he was scared of certain things, but then it wasn't until 6 months later that he actually started not answering to his name, and he started not repeating what you wanted him to say. He would say sometimes just random phrases, but it wasn't the same as before. So then we did the whole testing through the school system, and by then we had already taken him to the pediatrician, his pediatrician who knew him from birth, and they had ruled out. They thought he was lead poisoned because his change was so drastic, and since it had happened at such a late age, it wasn't common. So they started testing him for maybe lead poisoning. They even did MRIs to see if he had a tumor. That was ruled out. We went to neurologists to see what diagnosis they would give him, and the first diagnosis we got was a possible Landau-Kleffner syndrome, which is sort of like an epilepsy.
Chronic silent seizures.
Because of how he regressed so late, they say that
Does he have
sometimes they
chronic
mimic it.
seizures?
No. So one of the tests came back with some abnormalities. They redid the EEG. The first EEG said some abnormalities. The second one said no. So they kind of ruled it out, and he was just diagnosed with autism, and we just had to just deal with it and do ABA. But no one got into no one questioned this child was normal up until the age of 3, and then he started losing all these skills. No one, to this day, the mainstream doctors don't really.
They're all stumped. We've been to doctors in California, Arkansas.
Well, those are not mainstream doctors.
That's fine, but we've been to them, and they're neurologists. We've been to neurologists here at University of Miami. We've been to Tampa, and they're all stumped. I've had a doctor put his arm over me and basically say, "I'm sorry, but I have no answers for you. We don't understand how this happened. We don't understand what's going on."
But it's not the vaccine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then they even recommended for us to check his genes.
Yeah, we did the genome test.
We did a genome test,
that
which
came back.
cost us about $15,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't waste any more money on this, guys. It's obvious it's a vaccine engine. When they say they're stamped, that means that it's vaccine engine.
Exactly, they just don't want to.
And
I mean, in my son's case, it's more obvious than others. We delayed the vaccine, the MMR vaccine, and he still regressed.
after the fact.
After the fact.
Which is like I say, I always say it's my fault because I remember her going to the doctor and And
He was talking on that day. He and his brother were talking about,
yeah, they were having fun.
the drawings on the walls.
The
and
surfer on the wall.
Yeah, and they were making funny comments
But,
about it. And
she called me and asked me, hey, should I give it to her? They're giving us a hard time at school. And, I told her at the time that all the research that I had read said that after 3, he was fine. So I basically told her, hey, I think everything that I've read seems like it's okay. We're past that point. And we had already spoken about this before because, being a parent and being teachers of children that are autistic or special needs, that's one of the scariest things there are. So I remember her and I, talking about it and giving each other a hug and saying, wow, thank God we're past this point. He's reading, he was doing all his shapes and speaking English, Spanish. We thought,
even the
everything was great.
teachers who had him in the preschool, that had him just months before he got his vaccine. And then after, now in the fall, they would just observe him from the other class and they just couldn't believe the change. They were asking us what's going on. He's not social anymore. He doesn't want to participate in anything. He's scared of balloons and, things that he wasn't scared of before.
The day that it really hit me was the day I went to pick him up at a preschool. And he's usually the talkative kid with sits at the teacher's table and they eat in the morning and he's having fun and talking and singing along. And he would always tell me or tell us which kids got in trouble at school.
He would.
Yeah. So there was one particular kid named Brenda. And he would always tell us, Brenda got in trouble again today. She was in timeout today. Dad, she was in timeout. And so I go pick him up that day and I go in school and I actually see him, not with his friends, but in a corner somewhere all by himself. And I honestly got mad being a teacher. I got really mad because I thought he was in timeout. I'm like, he's a little kid. For him to be in timeout all alone, secluded to one side. And I was actually going there to, I was upset. So when I go talk to, I try to make eye contact with him as I'm walking towards him, he's usually the kid that runs, sees dad, runs, says daddy, and then jumps on me. He saw me, he didn't do anything. And then he just kept doing his, just started playing. He never stemmed before. He started stemming at that time, playing with his hands. And when I went and spoke to the teacher about it, she says, no, she told me, look, he's been acting like that for a little while now. We wanted to ask you what was going on. We wanted to have a meeting with you because he was the most social, and he went from being the most social and talkative to the kid that didn't speak at all and wanted to be secluded.
So, people, it's a very important story, a very, very important story because Vax the movie leads you to believe that it leads you to believe that you'll probably be safe after 3. You are not safe after 3. There is no age you're safe with these vaccines.
Well, we learned that the hard way.
We have moved on.
Yeah, I definitely
This
agree.
is a tragic, they're all tragic, all these stories, but
The kids, the people that knew him before and they haven't seen him in years, when they see him, they can't believe it's the same child. They just stare at him and stare and stare.
I've had people ask me, did he have a stroke? Did something else happen to him? Because they don't understand. We had some friends that went to Mexico and came back 2 years later, and their kids and our kids are exactly the same. They have 3 girls, we have 3 boys, and they're exactly the same ages. And when they came back, they just couldn't believe it. They thought something else happened. They kept asking us, well, did you go to the doctor? Yeah, we've been everywhere. And they just could not believe it.
you must be furious.
Yeah. Well, his buddy was the middle child. They're only 2 years apart exactly. And for the first 2 years, he would say, Mommy, when is Jason coming back? It's like he left. He would say that. Now he's used to it because it's been 6 years almost. But for the little bit of time, he was like, when is Jason coming back? When he was first diagnosed by the school psychologist for the county, and he got the diagnosis from the doctor. He had just turned 4, so we went from a year almost within all the testing and all the evaluations and the different doctors. And then when he started preschool at the age of 4, right after his evaluation, he was diagnosed with autism. The psychologist, same thing came out in the school psychologist evaluation. He spoke. He was in preschool and he spoke. He wouldn't have conversation, but you would ask him to repeat something and he would actually say it. His teacher would even comment on how well his enunciation was. And then he started losing that too. He started losing his speech little by little. He started changing sounds around. And the teacher was concerned. She's like, he's putting a T after each word. I don't understand why he's doing that. He used to. And this happened in a matter of months. And then, like, the year later, he would only say, I want, follow like a command. Or if you wanted something, follow, a scripted sentence.
It was
And then a year, like 2 years ago, is when he lost it completely.
it was really weird at the beginning, and being that again in the school setting, we had resources that we could go to. I would go to the speech pathologist at our school and talk to her about it and told her, because he started saying everything with a T sound towards the end. So he would say mommy, daddy, and everybody was stumped. They didn't understand. We didn't understand. We went to the doctor. They didn't understand. But it was a weird progression as it went, and it got to the point where regression. And then finally, we also had another weird stage where whenever he would get sick, he would start getting better. And it was like a roller coaster ride.
So when he got fever and stuff.
Yes,
yeah,
he would actually get better and start talking to us. And we thought, oh man, we praised God, thinking, it was just a phase, and he's out of it, he's back, and then all of a sudden he would get better. And once he got better from his fever or from the flu or whatever it was, he would go back to where he is now.
Some say it's that when they have fever and stuff, they don't really eat anything, and the minute you start putting food back into them,
I think so too.
crazy. Food is such
Because
a
he
big
doesn't
problem.
eat in a long time, I see that he's calmer and he's more with us. So I agree with that.
It was so everyone was stumped, and then little by little again he started losing it until he finally lost it about 2 years ago. And the last thing he said was, I love you, Dad.
It's such a cruel thing. Acting is just so cruel. What it does to our children.
So we have some video of him talking. We had one from Easter about 3 years ago, maybe a little further back, where he was already going through his transition, but he was happy because we were going to church that day, and he knew he was going to get Easter eggs with candy. So he's bringing up, Dad, we're going to Easter. We're going to church. It's Easter. It's Easter, and he was really happy. We found that on an old phone that my wife had. They were going to throw them out, and I said, hey, let me just look at that because. To see what was in it, and that's when I found it, and we noticed a real big regression. It's like once you live it, you kind of get numb to it and don't notice it. And we're thinking, man, this is a year exactly today. He was talking so much, and now he doesn't say anything at all. And
would you be able to send us that footage so we can cut it into this film we're making?
definitely, I'll have to bring it
really
off the phone.
That we show that the children are okay before.
And his teacher would, every once in a while, she would send something at the time when she would get him to talk a little bit. This is way after the fact through WhatsApp.
Right.
And that was way after the fact. But then since then, there hasn't really been anything.
How do your other two sons cope with it? Because it's really hard on siblings.
Yeah,
Really
they
hard
are so helpful and they're so compassionate.